Welcome back! Yeah, guys, here we are once again with another video for my October horror films, or yeah, horror films spotlight month, guys. All right, so this time I have another classic, another classic. It's like everything in my collection is nothing but classics. Not necessarily a bad thing, though, right? Could be good, right? So, guys, this time I got for you, of course, the original Halloween. Yeah, right, guys. So this film basically one of the classic, slashers of American cinema. Came out in 1978. Score one for 1978, guys. It was directed, of course, by John Carpenter and written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. It stars Jamie Lee Curtis as well as Donald Pleasence. And basically, basic synopsis, all of you should know this, right? Michael Myers kills his older sister when he was a kid, gets sent to a mental institution, breaks out about, I believe it's 10 years later, 15 years later when he's older, comes back, to Haddonfield to go after his other sister, of course played by Jamie Lee Curtis. So basically the whole film is trying to kill Jamie Lee Curtis's character, but along the way, of course, he kills some of the other characters which represent, Jamie Lee Curtis's character's friends. So, and they're all, babysitting at that time. And it takes place, of course, on Halloween, which is what this is all about, right, guys? It's about Halloween. Exactly, right? So anyway, guys, this film, I believe, was one of the early horror films that I ever saw that kind of introduced me in a very horrific way to the whole horror genre of film. And I remember as a child watching this movie, I can only watch it in pieces because I was like deathly afraid of horror films, back in the day. But I would have other family members trying to get me to sit there and watch this stuff, but I just couldn't, and other moments my mom would be like, just go away, you can't watch it, it's too scary for you and stuff like that. But it's one of those things that I revisit now, and I'm glad now that I've overcome that fear, years ago about horror films, and I'm getting into horror films, especially the classics, and I'm really enjoying them for what they are. And this particular movie is no exception. It's probably one of my favorite ones in my horror collection because it's one of the classics. And it holds up so well, despite the fact that it is, oh my goodness, maybe almost or a little over 40 years old now for a film, but it holds up so well in terms of just being so scary. And it plays partly because of course, the classic, theme music that accompanies, the Halloween, horror films, as well as the fact that, the character of Michael Myers, I remember reading that John Carpenter's original idea of the character of Michael Myers is that it's not so much that it's a character, but it's supposed to represent, evil, manifested in a human form, and it's like there's no way that you can kill it. It just keeps coming. And the way that the movie was shot, it kind of even just represents that. Like at every moment, basically, that Michael Myers shows up, it's like no one can stand a chance against it. He kills all his victims, in such a way that there was no way that they could have escaped. And especially when Jamie Lee Curtis's character actually finally confronts Michael Myers, there you really feel that evident uh, emotion, or that it's evident clear there that that idea of that evil that can't be killed that just keeps coming back, because there are moments where she kind of gets the upper hand on Michael Myers, but it's only temporary, because then he just comes right back up and just starts chasing her around the house, or across the neighborhood and stuff like that. But it's so good, guys. I mean, this is again one of the classics that I can talk about to a great extent, but again, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to keep it short. But it's so good. I mean, of course, one of the little tidbits, of course, is that the mask is based off a Captain Kirk, an old Captain Kirk mask, which is of course on William Shatner, so that's why it has that look. And I think they spray painted it white, for the purposes of the film, so at least it doesn't look that evident that it is William Shatner mask and things like that. So, but I mean, and it's one of the first films that I think introduced me to Jamie Lee Curtis before I even knew who Jamie Lee Curtis was. And I remember that I really liked Jamie Lee Curtis at that time, because again, she just has that definite look, especially for this movie coming out in the late 80s. And there's just something about, how I like a lot of characters, the way they look during the 80s. And Jamie Lee Curtis was definitely something to look at, in this particular film. And she was basically the one that was that kind of, every time you see the term Scream Queen, Jamie Lee Curtis's picture is going to be stamped right next to it. She's the one that started that whole thing, so. and it's just a lot of fun, you know. And this particular version of Halloween's a special edition version. I believe this one came out came out last year, as a matter of fact, I think. You know, and it's a Blu-ray digibook. So basically, it comes with, you know, a quick little book inside, which kind of, you know, is a little description about the movie process, and it talks about, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter, their relationship together, you know, working together on film and with the other members of the cast, and just, you know, what went into, you know, the creation of the film itself. And there's a really interesting, great, as a matter of fact, the disc comes in here in the sleeve at the back, so that's pretty cool. There's a great documentary in here that kind of follows Jamie Lee Curtis as she was getting ready to do, I believe at the time, was her first and only panel at a convention, at a horror convention, for this particular film. Because from what I understand is that, you know, she never tried too much to kind of associate herself with this movie so much, but she knew but wasn't aware of just how huge of a following this film, you know, had, and because of her. And when she went to the horror convention to, you know, host or to be at the panel, she was taken back, you know, and amazed by how many people came in to hear her, to see her, and hear her talk about her experiences on the film. And she was a trooper. She was really nice. Kind of, you know, she stayed there. I believe her particular panel, the entire convention was 3 or 4 days. She stayed there for the entire convention just to be able to meet people, to sign autographs, to take photographs, because they had this whole thing where basically they had signed up earlier to have photographs taken with Jamie Lee Curtis, and she stood there for everything from beginning to the end, just to meet and greet, you know, all the fans that, you know her from this particular picture. And she was great. You know, she went through it. You know, she didn't complain or anything like that. You know, she really, you know, stayed there, you know, and showed the fans how appreciative she was of their fellowship, you know, and coming over here, and how much love they have for her in this movie. It kind of made me wish that I was there, that I knew about this convention, so I can go there and, you know, and bring something, you know, for Halloween related that I can have her sign or something like that. But oh well. But again, guys, this movie is absolutely fantastic. It's something that you should definitely have in your horror collection if you like the Halloween series, especially the original Halloween series. You should definitely have this one. Unfortunately, I don't know if this particular version, the Blu-ray digibook, is still available. It might be, but it might be more expensive to get right now as compared to when it originally came out. But if you can definitely get, you know, this digibook version, I would say definitely get it, because it's worth having, you know, to have this thing to just commemorate, you know, the 35th anniversary edition of this film, you know, because it's one of those things that you just, it makes up what your collection should be like, you know. So, and I mean, I did see the remakes that they did of Halloween. You know, there was 2 parts, which kind of just, it's kind of like a retelling of the first 2 films. And honestly, the one thing that I didn't like about those films is that they try to give you a backstory to Michael Myers for being the way he is. You know, that he grew up in a dysfunctional family, an abusive family, as a matter of fact. You know, and that not only that, but it's just that Michael Myers just had problems as a kid also, you know, growing up, and that's kind of what led to him being the murderous killer that he was. But it's like they tried to make me feel sympathy for the guy, but I didn't feel any sympathy. I didn't care about how Rob Zombie handled the remakes. You know, I like this version better. You know, I mean, he's crazy. He grows up, he's just a freaking evil killer, and that's it. That's all I cared about. You know, and wanting to see Jamie Lee Curtis's character get away. You know, although I have to say that the one interesting thing about the remakes is that they actually got Danielle Harris to come back to play one of the, not her original character from the, you know, the original films that she did when she was a child, but a different character. But it was good seeing her actually in those 2. But again, guys, going back to the original, this is great. Definitely must have. You should get it if you can. And that's pretty much it, guys. You know, so I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Like, share, comment, tell me what you think about this, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right.